Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. Today, I'd like us to start on a new narrative arc, and that is going to be, it's going to be based on another series of presentations, or should I say classes, that I had with the folks at the Seed Builders Tech Hub. And this was the very first one that we did for 2020, I think. Yeah, I think it was the first one that we did for 2020. I can't remember which month that was, but it was called Sales Conversations, the Art of Influencing Customers to Buy. So that was the whole point of the series of presentations that I had with the class from then on. Actually, I just wanted it to be sales conversations, similar to what I have on the Instagram handle, which is sales conversations, because I believe that sale is not a one-time event. That rather, when you're in the sales context, you're actually opening and building upon relationships that you can leverage for the future. But of course, the folks at Seed Builders, well, they have to sell in the more business to business context, and so I guess for folks in that world, I guess you always have to make it much more obvious what the bottom line is, which is money, and so money or customers, and so that's why they put the tagline there, the art of influencing customers to buy. So, in this podcast today, and in the series of podcasts that follow, I'm going to try and run you through some of the key things that I figured members of the class ought to pay attention to in our sales journey and trying to influence people to buy. So, the very first question that we looked at, and that is what is going to be the focus of today's podcast, was to answer the question, is sales truly a conversation? Because if you remember the title, it went Sales Conversations, the Art of Influencing Customers to Buy. Now, of course, like most things, some people figured yes and some people figured no. Especially for those of us in the wedding and event space in Abuja, there are a lot of people who are in the no camp. So some people say yes, sales is a conversation, and there's some people who say no, that sales is not a conversation per se. It may involve conversations, but sales is actually an event. You start, you stop, you collect the check, and it's over and done. And that's one of the camps that a lot of folks, okay, maybe not say a lot of folks in Abuja, but rather a number of folks in Abuja that have run into event and wedding industry folks, of the opinion that our situation or sales is one and done. So you collect the money, you plan the wedding, they go off to live happily ever after, and then you run along and start looking for a new prospective customer to sell to. So bottom line, whether you answer yes or no depends on whether you view sales as an event or if you view sales as a process. Now, it is my hope that if we keep hanging out together over here on this podcast over time, you will see that sales is not an event, but rather is a process. Yes, there are going to be situations where the sale is an event and it's a one-off. You start, you stop, you collect the money, fulfill, and then that's it. Everybody go your merry way. But you will find out that that is not often the case. I mean, those happen, but those are in situations where the sale, or rather the product or the service that we're dealing with, as when it's not consequential. Let me put it that way. But anyway, I will stop here so I don't get into what the next question that we tackled was, which is how do you know when we're dealing with simple sales situation and complex sales situations? When we hit the next podcast, you'll see how everything ties in together. But just remember that whether sales is a conversation or not depends on whether you think it's an event or whether it's a process. Now, for those people like me who say yes, the advantage of thinking yes, that sales is a process and that you're entering into relationships, is because it allows you to leverage the contacts that you have presently, allows you to leverage the opportunities that you create today for future gains. Because you have that mindset, that is how you're always going to be thinking. That yes, I've collected the check, I've delivered the wedding album. Now, how can I deliver more value to this current setup, to this bride and groom, so that we can leverage these contacts to bring in future business and to bring in new opportunities, whether they may be wedding related or not. Sometimes these things are just self-fulfilling prophecies. So if you're one of those yes people that sales is a relationship, sales is a process, sales is about the future, that's going to be your attitude. You wake up in the morning and you keep going, and trying to see how you can leverage the present for opportunities or gains in the future. And for those of you who say no, it also is a self-fulfilling prophecy, but then that always means that you guys are always starting afresh. So you're done with this client, you delete the phone number, and then off to the next one. You're now looking for a new person, so you're always starting afresh. The problem with this approach is it's very tiring. Maybe the amount of work that you're doing is no different from what you'd be doing if you were a yes person who is always trying to leverage your contacts and opportunities now for the future. So the level of work might be the same, but mentally you just feel drained, continually hunting for new business. It also has downsides because it leads to a lot of burnt capital. And when I say burnt capital, what I mean is personal capital. That's the relationships that you have with folks. And it's something that I have actually experienced firsthand. Because in the beginning, when I started off when I moved to Abuja anyway, and I was trying to look for ways to jumpstart sales, a lot of it involved me going around meeting wedding planners, other event industry folks, trying to see what we could negotiate, referrals, commissions, all sorts of things. Of course, in a very transactional kind of way. So there were some people that I was able to do some stuff with, and that was good, and there was some people that I wasn't able to do any stuff with, and that was bad. It was bad because when you're in the when you're looking at sales as if it's a start stop thing, and you're not trying to leverage for future opportunities, then basically when someone is of no use to them, you don't bother keeping them in the mix anymore. So there were those awkward situations where there were loads of event planners and other professionals that I had reached out to before, but because nothing popped off between both of us, we never kept in touch, and I didn't initiate anything. I didn't follow through on the relationship, and so sometimes there were those awkward meetings or future conversations where you run into someone, and there's that awkward thing of, well, you guys kind of know each other, but nothing popped off, and you guys just didn't send afterward. And I remember one. I think she was in the drinks business. Well, anyway, she just came right out and asked me at some point that, I thought this was about me and not just what you could get out of it. So, I mean, basically, if you just keep on hitting folks with that really transactional, one and done, what can we get now kind of mentality, you're just going to lead to a lot of burnt capital. And let's not forget that the social circles that we flow in are really small. So you don't want to be that guy in Lagos or Abuja or Enugu or Port Harcourt or wherever you are, where people are like, don't mind that guy. As in, he's just a grafter. As in, if he can't get anything from you, he'll just dump you and move on. So you don't want to be that kind of person. So those are the downsides to not looking at sales as a process or as a relationship, or rather as a continuum, something that starts today and you try and stretch it out for as long as humanly possible. It's tiring, it leads to a lot of burnt capital, and you're dealing with human beings in a very transactional way. It doesn't make the other people feel good. Quite frankly, it makes you feel awkward when you walk into a room at a networking event or whatever it is, and there are 50 vendors there, and you've been in touch with 48 of them, but you only bother to build a relationship with one because things popped off, and so the other people just think you are a knobhead or something. So, it's my hope that from listening to the podcast, if you happen to be on the other side, you're going to join me over here on this side of the aisle and come to an understanding and appreciation of the fact that sales is a conversation and it is a long-term conversation where our goal is to leverage our present contacts and the present opportunities that we create so that we can get future gains. So, thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. Thank you for your time and attention. I don't take it for granted. I'll keep trying to deliver value to you guys. And on the next episode, what we're going to do is we will look at simple sales situations and complex sales situations. Is there a difference? Why is that distinction even necessary? Why do we need to pay attention to those sorts of things? And more importantly, for those of us in the wedding and the event space, what are we doing? Are we handling a simple sales situation, or are we involved in the complex sales situation? Because the answer is going to determine how you handle a lot of things going forward. So I'll see you guys on the next episode or the next recording, and thank you very much, guys, for listening.